Yo, what up guys? Today we're going to go through 5 tips that I have for you for the Sanctum of Rebirth. Now, I've actually not played this boss dungeon anywhere near as much as I would have liked to because I had a busy week after the release, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. However, now I've started again now, and these are some things that I've been doing and that I've been told about that are pretty useful for the dungeon. So hopefully they'll help you out as well if you didn't already know them. Share any more that you have in the comments, and let's go. Now, this first tip that we have today is actually suggested to me from Sparty Pants, and this is why this video kind of came to be today, because I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's actually just use that for a video and add some more extra things in here. So what you can do in this dungeon, and all bosses I believe, is you conjure your stuff just here, and you get right in front of the gap just before, and if you're using necromancy, of course this is the only time it's going to apply. You can use life transfer and cross the gap at the same time, and you shouldn't take any damage. So you've seen life transfer worked, I got the time, and I took absolutely 0 damage, and they're still extended. Now, what you're going to have to do and keep in mind here is you need to close a bit of distance for the conjures to actually cross over. So they're not gonna follow me over, and you can't call them, but if you go all the way across the room, then they will then jump into the room with you. So you can use this in all the bosses. Obviously this is not going to be a serious attempt, but you can use this in all the bosses. You just have to cross a little bit of different distance after you jump over the entrance to be able to pull those conjures over with you. But it's actually kind of cool. It's a nice way to get that extend there without taking the extra 5,000 damage that you would normally take. So pretty cool. I didn't even think about this. Sparty, thank you very much. It's appreciated. And for those of you that are using necromancy here, which I think is most people, right? I'm pretty sure most people using necromancy as a boss right now. It's something you can take advantage of. Another really cool trick that you can use in this dungeon is for the second boss. You can actually take an obliteration staff to reduce the healing of the second boss during the time that you have to kill the pillar. The way this boss works is when he phases and you have to kill one of the pillars on the side, he will heal himself by a decent amount for every amount of time that you don't actually have this thing dead. The longer it takes you to kill it, the more he's going to heal. However, an obliteration staff is going to reduce the healing that the target that you use it on can actually take. Now, this actually does a world of difference, and you will save yourself a lot of kill time by using this if you want to. Now, of course, you don't have to do this, but I've definitely saved myself a good amount of time and got myself some better PRs here by using this, and I now bring it every time I do this boss because it definitely does just save a bit of time. All you want to do is use the special attack from the obliteration staff just before you phase or as soon as you do phase, and then start killing the pillar instead. Just means that when you get back into the next phase, or once a pillar's dead, you don't have a extra ton of health that you've already dealt back on the boss that you have to now deal again. You can use this on both times that you do one of the pillars, for both pillars, right? You can use it for both times, and it just saves you a ton of time. So something that is super easy to do is definitely worth taking advantage of if you can be bothered with the switch. Obliteration staffs went insanely expensive near the release of this boss when people found out about this, like 150 mil expensive. It was insane. They're back down now. They're not stupidly expensive anymore, so you can still grab one of these fairly decently priced now, and it's not that big of a deal anymore. All right, so for our next tip, we're going to be talking about diving in this place that sometimes something that gets in your way and gets you killed, especially here. Like at this boss specifically, you're going to be diving a lot, like diving to dodge the mechanics all the time. Now, you do this in all the first boss and the second boss as well, but mostly here is where it's going to be really, really important to not mess up, because it can be the most frustrating thing. You get to the last phase and you misclick something and your dive doesn't go right, and you just die instantly to one of the tiles like blowing up, right? So the tip for this one is specifically about the familiar that you're using. Now, you may notice that I'm using a little flying pig here. Now, I actually kind of like it. I kind of like it. I think this one's called like Commander Porkins or something like that. I think I have it down here somewhere. Yeah, Commander Porkins is this one. So if you want to use the same one, you can get this from the Premier Pass. But the reason that you can see right here, the reason I'm using this is because you can't click this guy. Like I can't even right click to examine him. It took me so long to get this down here to be able to show you guys, but I can't even target him. But sometimes what will happen, you can see in my chat here, it says you cannot attack that NPC. So you'll be killing the boss, fighting the boss over here, and then you'll need to dive like behind you or something, and you click, and what'll happen is, if it's not a small familiar, it'll give you this. You cannot attack the NPC, and your guy just stands still and you don't move. This specific familiar override has like 1 pixel, and it's so hard to be able to actually target it. So this is why I'm now using this guy, and we'll probably use this guy forever now because it's so small, man. Look at it, it's so cool. Like, I don't even care. Like, I don't. If I could just not have a familiar, like if I could have one but not have one showing, that would even be better. I would go for that instead. But it's the most frustrating thing when you need to dive to dodge a mechanic and you're right at the end of a fight here, and you dive and you get that stupid message saying you can't attack it because he's just for some reason stood back attacking the boss or whatever, and you happen to click that one place of all places. It's not going to happen often, but it will happen. And this is just an overall PVM tip as well, not just for this dungeon, but like it works a lot better here because you dive a lot. But yeah, get a familiar like this one where you can't even right click to examine him, man. He's too small. He's too small. For this one, we're going to be talking specifically about the second boss. This is because the second boss will start the fight out with some auto attacks, and then it will immediately go into the area of like damage attack on the floor where it glows up the tiles that you can't stand on and you got to dodge them. This one's slightly different to the final boss where it will put like a grid section and there's very small spaces for you to actually stand on the initial ones anyway. And there's a way that you can kind of start this fight and put yourself in a much better position to be able to deal with this nice and easy, like very little effort for the actual starting bit. And that is to, when you get into the fight, before you, like as soon as you jump down to the arena, do all your stuff to prepare yourself and then immediately just surge forward. This is going to place you directly underneath the boss, but at this point just target the boss, whether it's with target cycle, whether it's with clicking on him, and use whatever ability that you are going to want to use. This is probably going to be like a vulnerability bomb for most people in most instances, like a smoke cloud maybe. And then when you do anything to target the boss, your character is going to have to move from underneath him to be able to actually use that ability. This is going to push you out, and where you stop, like you can see my character doing it right now, is going to be a really good position to be able to deal with these, like the grid mechanic on the floor every single time. Like sometimes you're gonna have to click one tile to move, other times you just stand still and keep doing damage. It's just a really good way to set up. Now I will say that there may be better ways to do this boss. Maybe you specifically want to place like a sunshine or something on one of the side parts of the fight or something, I don't know, but I place it here because it just means I can deal with this first mechanic nice and easy, and I overall find this boss fine. So for those of you that maybe start the fight and you're trying to get all your stuff set up and then you find this mechanic throws you off a little bit, give this a go. Now for the final one, this is going to be a little bit more information and a little bit more detail to take in, but that's absolutely fine. It's for the final boss as well. We actually didn't have anything for the first boss. If I can think of anything, we'll make it 6 and I'll add one up. If not, then you can drop one in the comments or any other tips that you've got and we'll go ahead and add another video. Anyway, for the final boss, you are going to have a part of the fight throughout the whole thing, basically, where you will have the grid mechanic, I'm going to call it, the tiles that light up in the squares, and you got to dive out of the squares or whatever, or like step off of them to make sure you don't take heavy damage. This is going to happen throughout the entire fight at different instances. However, in the final boss, you can actually look on the side of the arena and there'll be runes showed to you. These runes are going to show you exactly where you can stand to be able to be safe. This allows you to predict or know where is going to be safe before you get to that next mechanic. This means that you can be ready and that you aren't going to get caught off guard. If you are really struggling with this, you can definitely take advantage of it. Now I'll put on screen a diagram for how this actually works because it is pretty complicated and you got to understand the way that it works, like projecting onto the actual map and stuff, and it can be a bit confusing. However, I personally don't even use this. I just see the space and go, quick, go over there. And this may not be the optimal way to do it. It's just the way that I'm doing it because I personally, in my mind, I'm like, I've got enough to think about already. But a lot of people may learn better this way, or might find this a lot easier to understand and actually deal with, and so I figured it was worth mentioning. And it's written on the image, and the best way to explain this is just imagine that it folds down onto the actual arena, because that's how it's going to work. This is going to take a little bit of time to get used to and follow. I haven't bothered, and I still don't probably plan on bothering unless for some reason it becomes super important to do, but this could be something that helps out a lot of people in knowing where the next tiles are, because I know a lot of people are getting very frustrated with this because they're getting through the fight and then suddenly they're like, well, what the frick, it's on the other side of the place and I'm nowhere near it. But it is also probably worth mentioning that if you just stay close to the boss, like the middle square section of this mechanic, when this is going off, you'll always be in range to dive to a safe spot. So even when you get one of the ones that give you just like 1 or 2 little spaces to actually jump to, you will always be in range of that if you are close to the boss. Now this can be a bit of an issue sometimes if you're using Sunshine and you're standing on one of the like golden corner safe spot places, but either way, like towards the end of the fight in the last few phases, if you're going to Sunshine, you can stand near the boss. And also once you've dived away, run back towards the boss preemptively for the next lot of like safe spots to appear, and then you can dive into that very quickly. And this will avoid the actual issue of being out of range of reaching one spot that's on the other side of the arena. But either way, this mechanic can be pretty frustrating, so don't get overly stressed out about it. I have definitely had my tilted moments, so I figured it was worth sharing about the runes and other ways that you can do it. In fact, I'm going to put 2 comments in the comment section, obviously. One will be that you use the runes on the side, and one will be that you just guess it and dive like a maniac and hope that you're okay. And just leave a like on either one. We'll treat it as like a poll. So go down and vote on which one of you're doing. And then I'm kind of interested to see which one people are doing the most. Anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of this one. I hope you found it useful. If you did, leave a like, sub to the channel if you are new, check out the merch. There's some pretty cool stuff down there. You guys have been going crazy over it actually recently. So thank you. Other than that, I'll catch you all in the next one. Catch you later, guys. Bye.